Good day, and welcome to the Budding Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Bridges. In each episode, I cover my experiences, both good and bad, of being a business builder, as well as my journey through the crazy world of entrepreneurship to reach my goal of earning $10 million a year. All right, everybody. We're moving on to episode 104. This is week 2 of July 2023, for those who are listening a little bit later on. And I wanted to kind of jump right in here. Being that it is week 2, this is a review week of what's happened in the past week. So I'm going to go through and kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that I've been reading, some of the things that I've been learning, and some of the concepts and things that I'm dealing with on a regular basis while going through the Wealthy Consultants Program launch kit. Now, I don't get paid from them, by the way. This is me going through my program, trying to help people to understand the bigger picture in some respects of what learning as an entrepreneur can be like. So jumping back into our books, we were looking at 2 books, one by Benjamin Hardy, he's a doctor, and the other by Dan Sullivan. He's a business consultant. And the first book, 10X is Easier Than 2X, is completed. I learned a lot from it. It was very inspirational, especially towards the end, because it helped me to put a few things in place that I hadn't really collected before. Another book, and this is one that I just got started on, is The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan. This one is... It's a lot slower process than 10X is Easier Than 2X. It's more involved, a lot more material, and it starts right off the bat just basically kicking you right in your teeth, talking about your life and what you think of things. The gap is when he uses this concept of the gap as there's a difference between you and the things you want. That's ultimately what it kind of comes down to. The gain is the other side of the coin. This is where you are achieving things. You're not looking at things through a negative lens. You're looking at things through the way they actually are. And that's kind of an important concept to have in our lives as entrepreneurs. That being said, I also picked up another book. It was a 166-page book by Landon Stewart and Chris Stapleton. And this will be relevant here in a few minutes when I get into the actual curriculum of where I am. But the $1 Million Group Method is a process especially geared around Facebook in building a group for yourself. And that's a kind of an interesting thing, something that was new to me. I've been in groups. I didn't really see any really big reason to go through and do my own group, but now I'm starting to understand there's a much bigger picture here. Now, as far as lessons learned and takeaways, that's one of the main ones, and it'll be relevant to what I'm doing within the program. But one of the most important concepts that I ran across that changed my thinking is the concept of Kairos versus Chronos. Now, Chronos is essentially the clock as it's going by you. You're living in the moment. You're not living any other way. Time is passing by. Things go by very quickly, and it's linear time. That's Chronos. Kairos is where you introduce leveraged time, and you have to go like any kind of a athlete. You have to have off days, you have to have training days, and then you have to have performance days. And so Kairos is your leveraged focus of learning, of sleeping, of doing, of pretty much everything in your life. And it's a great way of going about things. It completely allowed me to change my perspective, so much so that I literally restructured the business. I took a day off and came back from it fully charged, restructured the business to a whole different way, taking on concepts of VAs and putting all these pieces in place. It was like, wow, this is a major change for me. So Kairos, Kairos versus Chronos, Chronos. Apparently, this is Greek mythology for those of you who are interested, so you might want to go and take a look and dig into, this is part of that whole 10x is easier than 2x and the gap and the gain. They kind of work hand in hand. Now, being that we are going to talk about the Launch Kit program, this week we're talking about group memberships. And again, I didn't know much about this. This was something that I was like, I don't really understand it. And so I could go ahead and do it, but I'm one of those kind of people that likes to know why this is the plan. Not just go do this step by step by step. I really want to understand why we're doing it, how we're going about it, what is the motivation, right? All the pieces. And so I thought about it, did a little research, and ran across Clients and Community, which is a site that's out there. Again, I don't get any money from them. This is related to that $1 Million Group Method book. And it gave a really good concept of how to go about doing this without losing your ever-loving mind. Okay, that was important to me. And so I combined my idea of who, not how. Thank you, Dan Sullivan. The who, not how is if I need help building something, I can find who is already doing it. And so after this program, and I already talked to a gentleman this morning related to Clients and Community, is, as I get done with this Launch Kit program, then I can pop right over into the Clients and Community and go through their system of getting things done. So I gained the benefit of having learned a little bit of how to do it and then how to do it right. And that's the key. Another thing that was different this week is I upgraded my ChatGPT to the paid version. This was a major change. In fact, this came out of one of the videos for Clients and Community. And I asked ChatGPT to analyze my style based upon my podcast. And there were a lot of things that were brought to the forefront that I hadn't really considered. So it's interesting to kind of get a chance to input your own wording and get essentially analysis of how it works. And that was kind of eye-opening. So if you haven't ever done that and you want to go into the ChatGPT, they have the new 4.0 that's only available in the paid version. There's some limitations on it. I think it's so many messages per every 3 hours. It's $20 a month, It's well worth it. You get a lot more flexibility. The process runs better. You aren't waiting forever with big, long gaps. It's just a really nice thing. Now, I mentioned I'm structuring my business differently, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that because, again, I've been trying to absorb a lot of information in a very short period of time. I'm one of those kind of people that I just absolutely immerse myself inside of a learning program and try, if I'm not getting all the information, I try to pull from someplace else. Well, I considered the concept of what I could do with virtual assistants, right? VAs, as they're often called. How I could use them, how I can handle things, where I would want them in my business. And I actually put several different layers of VAs into my business plan and structured it much simpler than what I'd been doing, certainly getting away from me doing everything. Then I also wanted to make sure that I had people that were involved in enrollment. One of the more interesting things about Clients and Community, which is different from almost anyone else I've dealt with, is instead of having this 45-minute to an hour strategy call, you have a 15-minute triage call with somebody. That's what you're going for. 15 minutes, who doesn't have that, right? And they followed up on it, did a lot of things with it, and I was like, wow, this is kind of different. I'm not used to getting an email every single day telling me what's going on. And triage calls are They're essentially to figure out, is the person, well, not a good fit. I don't want to say that. It's, do they need something different than what we're going to do? There's a good way of putting it, okay? That's number one. Number two, are they on the fence and they could just use more training, maybe more perspective, more learning? Maybe just go read a book just to kind of answer a few questions, direct them in that way, and then they could go ahead and move on. But the third part of the triage, three, just like, surgical hospitals do the same thing. The triage is, okay, are they in a position not to go now, but are they in a position to have a deeper conversation, that 45 to 60 minute help session? That's the key right there. If you can go through and identify where they are in their process, are they not really ready for it or not a good fit? Two, are they getting there but they need something different right now? Or are they ready for that deep conversation? And this all caused me to go back now and think differently, to write out a 15-minute triage script as a sales script, which then changed my main sales script, that 45-minute to an hour script, changed that as well. So I've rewritten that, and it's interesting when you start thinking about what a 15-minute phone call can be. A lot of times people say, well, it's going to be, you're not going to cover much. If you've got a plan, you can move through that program very quickly and very carefully, and be able to isolate and identify where these people are, and even how can they use more of my resources without me necessarily having to be involved. So overall, that was the week of number 2. It was a very good week. I did take off last Sunday, and like I said, it just charged me when I came back at it. I didn't realize that I had been kind of repressing some ideas and concepts in the back of my head. I was like, okay, well, I know there's more going on back there, but I don't have time to focus on it. And taking that day off brought all of that out. I just started just rolling out of my head. I was drawing pictures, I was writing things, I was writing up, different ideas, typing everything out. And it was amazing at what just a one-day break will make. And I've had a lot of people tell me that. I definitely recommend it. I don't say you have to do it every week, especially when you have a lot of things going on that you have to get accomplished quickly. But if you can, have set break times and break days so that you simply attune your body to getting things done differently. Okay, so that is week 2. Recap once again. The books were 10x is easier than 2x. That one's done. The $1 Million Group Method. That one's done. And then the Gap and the Gain, digging in deep into it. Chronos versus Kairos, Kairos versus Chronos, leveraged versus linear time. And then all the different things that have been an improvement for this week. So for the budding entrepreneur, this is Randy Bridges signing off, wishing you the best in your health, your wealth, your family, your business, everything about you. Take care. Have a great week. We'll be back next week for more exciting things that I've stumbled across, run into, and just had to figure out how to get around. Thanks a lot. Take care. Good luck in your business. We'll talk to you soon.